Hi guys, Norwegian settlements are under threat from a huge landslide. There's a mountain that's basically splitting in half, and then the mountain could come down and fall into the fjord and trigger a tsunami as high as 100 feet, 30 meters, that would immediately rush down towards the settlements. And this is not some faraway doomsday scenario. This could happen at any minute, basically, and the signs are already there. There's cracks that are constantly widening. There's farmers there. The cracks basically look like these cracks that we've seen in Iceland there, and then they start being covered with moss and some little tiny growing stuff. So the farmers keep it always like clean so that no animals or no people would fall in there. So that mountain is splitting apart, and this is massive, guys. So I really thought I have to tell you about this. So this landslide will go directly into the fjord, causing this tsunami, and then it will sweep the fjord and devastate the areas that are adjacent to areas that are called Fjorden and Fjorden. And which mountain am I talking about? I'm talking about Akernes Mountain. And what is Norway doing to, I won't want to say prevent this disaster, but to monitor what's going on? So they're having a constant vigil to prevent this tsunami disaster. It's in one of the world's most beautiful villages that is called Geiranger in Norway. This silent threat looms large, very large, guys. And Akernes Mountain is basically a towering, huge mass of rock that rises above the fjord in this area. And it's slowly but surely, and that's what it is, surely sliding into the water and breaking apart. And if it collapses completely, it could unleash this massive tsunami of unprecedented proportions. You have to compare this. They're always saying if the big one, the mega thrust earthquake at the Cascadia subduction zone here on the west coast of North America is happening, there could be a magnitude 9 or higher earthquake that would trigger a tsunami that could also be as tall as 100 feet, 30 meters. So a magnitude 9 or 10 earthquake, and this landslide there in a Norwegian fjord can cause the same wave. And you know, these fjords, they're a little bit like bathtubs, right? The waves crashing against the ends of the fjords, and it's really shaking it up quite massively. So this tsunami of unprecedented proportions could devastate settlements, towns, and villages in the surrounding communities. So it's not new that this danger exists. They have known about the danger that Akernes Mountain could cause for quite a while, for decades. But it was only in the 1980s that the scientists began to fully understand the scale of this threat that is coming from this mountain. So in 1983, there was a local resident that has basically rediscovered this massive crack that is there in the area, in that mountainside, that had been widening for generations. And since then, that crack has been monitored, and it has been growing quite substantially at what scientists are saying an alarming rate of 15 centimeters per year. And that crack is the indication that that mountain is splitting in half, and then one half will crash into the fjord. And because of that, today, Akernes Mountain is one of the most monitored mountains in the world. So they have a network of sensors and webcams around the mountain that tracks every movement of the mountain. And also, scientists are constantly developing new ways to predict, to find out when this collapse might occur. So in the event that this mountain is collapsing in the fjord, the government of Norway is saying that they do have a sophisticated early warning system in place. So they're saying if sensors detect even the slightest movements, they have sirens that will go off, and the residents will only have a few minutes to evacuate to safety. Because if the mountain collapses, that tsunami is coming right away. One thing that is quite stunning is that despite this alarming risk, the residents seem to take it easy. They seem to remain unfazed by this. The whole mountain, as you see here on the picture, is basically covered in green moss and some smaller shrubs, and it has been silently, slowly, undetectedly, so to speak, splintering for decades, and its eastern flank is losing. That's the eastern flank is losing up to 15 centimeters or 10 to 15 centimeters per year in height, and is gradually sliding into the fjord that is called Sunil's Fjord. I'm pretty sure I'm not pronouncing it right. So here it's how it's written. So right now, and this is already the case, the entire mountainside is loose and it is moving. This movement and this separation that has already happened from the mountain could create this quite large collapse. And it could not only create one tsunami, it could create several tsunamis, depending how much over time is falling into the fjord. So there could be some large masses falling into the fjord or breaking off in one chunk or several pieces over time that will go into the fjord. And each scenario could on its own create the large tsunamis. What do the scientists say about the timing? When could it happen? So they're basically saying it could happen right now. It could happen in 2 years, in 3 years, but also maybe in 30 years. And guys, in light of that, check out my video that I have just released about artificial intelligence that could predict earthquakes and magma movements. Check out this video and then let me know what you think. Could this technology or this system, this algorithm be transferred to that mountain to be able to better predict when it's going to happen? Let me know, but you have to watch the video first. I'm kind of trying to make you watch that, but it's really worth it, guys, I promise. But let's get back to Norway. So there is a risk assessment that has been conducted in 2016 by Norway's Directorate for Civil Protection. And what they're saying is really quite scary. So they're saying that 54 million cubic meters, that's 1,907 cubic feet of rock, could, from one moment to the other, detach from the mountain and then could produce these waves, dozens and dozens of meters in height in just a few minutes. And in just a few minutes, these waves would wash over at least 10 villages that are bordering this fjord. Imagine that, guys. That is absolutely crazy. And what the scientists are saying, there's a disaster movie that is called The Wave. And this scenario here at this mountain has inspired the movie. But what scientists are saying, while that movie is kind of fictional, what they're dealing with in Norway there is real life, and it's going to happen. And it has happened in the past. So that's why they can have a little bit of an imagination what's about to come. So in 1934, not far away, just a few kilometers away from the mountain, there was a landslide that caused a very, very devastating tsunami that has also ended people. And I have to say ended because with YouTube, I'm not even going into it. You can't say certain words anymore these times. So I'm not weird, but you know, I have to say it like this. I hope you know what I mean. So at that time in 1934, the waves that were created by that landslide were up to 64 meters. 64 meters. That's roughly 212 feet. 212 feet. This is absolutely insane. So this is even twice the height of the Cascadia subduction zone magnitude 9 or higher earthquake. 64 meters, guys. This is like a multi-story high rise. It's crazy. So 40 people were lost in 1934, but now it's probably more densely populated in that area. And the scientists are saying, we're not here for fun. I'm sorry to say that. The danger is real. There's a large probability that we could have a large event which could create a major threat to society. That's how they call it, a major threat to society. That sounds absolutely, I don't know, that the people still live there is amazing me. I know many people maybe don't have the money to move away, or they're older and they don't want to move away. Crazy, guys. Sounds so scary, but there's more to the story. So listen. At the inner end of this fjord, there's the villages that are called Hellesølt and Geiranger. And these two are at the greatest risk from this mountain slide that could happen. So if we look at the worst case scenarios, according to these worst case scenarios, these tourist hotspots, these two towns, could be submerged by waves of 70 to 80 meters. That is even higher than the 1934 tsunami. So these two villages are tourist hotspots. This means spring, summer, fall, many people in that area, maybe even in the winter if they want to look at these fjords. And guys, this is blowing me away. These two villages could see waves up to 70 to 80 meters in height. 80 meters, that is roughly 270 feet. So that is even crazier. It gets crazier. This is absolutely massive, guys. So this is a level of destruction. I don't know if in our lifetime we even have seen something like this happening. Because the problem is, these fjords are, as I said, like a bathtub. So they get the full force, these settlements that are right by the water. And they have interviewed a resident that is in his 70s and has lived there all his life in Geiranger, and he would definitely be amongst the people that would be affected if that tsunami wave hit. And he says, well, here we're living at around 30 to 40 meters altitude. And so he didn't seem too worried, but he said, well, obviously, if the wave would be 80 or 90 meters high, so up to 300 feet, we'll be underwater. That's what he said, and then he started to laugh. So I guess maybe they're thinking, I'm old enough, what the heck, I'm not moving away from this anymore. I love it here, this is my home. It could happen next year, yes, but it could happen in 30 years, right? I understand his thinking, that's for sure. And he also says, well, we can't live in constant fear thinking about it all the time, because that's no quality of life, and I agree with him. Because otherwise, he says, you stop living. And that's absolutely true. But guys, you have to understand, Norway, and in this fjord, this is a cruise ship destination in the summer with many tourists. And imagine what's happening with a cruise ship. If that landslide gets into this fjord and this wave, I mean, crazy. But also there's a 69-year-old shipping agent that lives there, and basically his comment was, well, nobody knows how big the wave will be eventually. It could be like this or like that. Yeah, that could be true. But, 30 meters or 40, 50, 60, 80, I don't think that matters too much. It's bad enough already. And of course, this resident says, well, the wave could arrive slowly or quickly. Yeah, but still, it doesn't matter. It's still bad. And slowly, not that slowly, right? Because it's the source of this wave is right there. You don't have much time, a few minutes. But also this resident says, well, this is not something we're talking about on a daily basis. And again, yeah, if you did do that, I think you'd have to move away eventually. I think they're kind of relying on the warning systems, because he says, well, everybody knows that the warning system and that the emergency measures are working well. If you're on a cruise ship that is not docked and that's just in that fjord, where do you escape? I'm pretty sure most of the tourists don't even know about the danger when they go to these places. So that's why Akernes Mountain is so closely monitored, the most closely monitored mountain in the world. And they have these GPS instruments, the topographic instruments on the surface of the mountain, but they also have installed sensors deep inside the mountain, so that every moment can be caught, every movement can be seen on these instruments, and then sound the alarm if necessary. But we know with the GPS measurement stations and the local measuring stations, they can be affected by windstorm, snowfall, and weather, and you might just miss something very important if they're impacted or compromised by any weather that's going on. But the geologists are saying they think that the mountain will not plunge into the fjord without a warning. They think that if the main break is happening and it's falling, that they think it's going to be preceded by signs that should then give them enough time to evacuate people from the area. And I think that's what the people that live there are relying on to be able to live their lives. But the mayor of Stranda, for example, is saying evacuating thousands of people from a small area because of the risk of a landslide is a nightmarish scenario. And it is. And if you're following my channel, we're dealing with a potential supervolcano Campi Flegrei in Italy, where we have roughly 6 million people in the greater Naples area. Naples, an old ancient city with small alleys, small streets, winding roads, not straight and square like in the US, hard to evacuate. And there's not only the threat of the earthquakes come first, but then this could be followed by a volcanic eruption. So they're also not very confident that they can evacuate people in time, but they do have a new evacuation plan and new evacuation scenarios to be able to get as many people out as possible if the volcano will give them enough warning time. But they say they need at least 72 hours for that. You don't have 72 hours probably here with that landslide. So especially what the mayor says, it's nightmarish for the villages of Hellesult and Gairanga that are in direct proximity to this scenario, should it happen. But the mayor also said, we're ready, we're prepared. He says all the emergency plans are set. Each authority knows what to do when the time comes, and the population is regularly kept updated about the developments. Question is, are the tourists? I mean, maybe on the cruise ship, but what about the ones that just come there by car or travel there? So what the authorities are saying is, whenever that landslide happens, they have several ways of communicating with each other. They say they can use a text message geolocalization service, the internet, Facebook, and TikTok. That's what they're saying. That sounds a little bit, you're really relying on that? I'm not so sure. I don't know. I mean, definitely should the tsunami happen, then these services will not work anymore, that's for sure. But while they're preparing all this, the scientists are also working on a way to maybe prevent this disaster or to delay the inevitable. But can you? So they're saying that one possibility is probably to drain the mountain of its water, because the water acts as both a lubricant and a pressurizer. And what they're basically saying, it only takes a lot of rainfall for a long time that could trigger that landslide. But, you know, take away the water from a mountain. I mean, let's say this is technically feasible. How much will that cost? This sounds very, very complex and expensive. And the way this area is structured there, they would have to bring in all the equipment by helicopter. But a senior director at the Water Resources and Energy Directorate has said that an operation like this could significantly delay the mountain's collapse. Delay. Okay, for how long? You know, until everyone has moved away or gradually moving away, and then maybe let it happen intentionally. Get everyone out, abandon the villages, and then blast it, and then rebuild. I don't know. So they think if they drain the mountain off the water, that instead of the risk having that this could happen immediately or in the next 1 and 200 years, they think that they could delay it, that it will maybe happen in the next 1,000 years. So if they're really able to do that, that would be a little bit of a game changer. But can you be 100% sure that this really works? And that, again, as I said, rainfall, some bad, long-lasting rainfall, monsoon that is coming down, something out of the ordinary could trigger this thing at any time. So yeah, guys, scary things are going on in the world, I have to say. So wherever you live, there's probably something. So I think we need to prepare ourselves. And again, check out my last video about the artificial intelligence, because imagine that there was a chance, especially where I am right now, west coast of Canada, where we have the Cascadia Fault that is overdue to rupture and could, how scientists say, rip open the Pacific Northwest from Northern California to Southern Canada and destroy everything that's west of I-5, the highway that goes along the west coast. So wild devastation that North America hasn't seen in our lifetime, probably the world hasn't seen. But imagine that scientists could predict this one with like 2 days warning time or even a week. That would be a game changer, and I'm talking about this in my video, and this is very, very interesting. So check it out here, guys. If you want to support the channel, check out my Buy Me a Coffee website. The link is in the description of this video. I'm using a lot of coffee to stay afloat and make all these videos, and of course become a member of this channel for a lot of behind the scenes videos about what is going on. If you want to see a list of these videos before you subscribe, I have a playlist with videos for my members of the channel. So scroll through it, and if you think it's worth it, become a member of the channel. So I would love to see you there in our community, and of course I would love to see you in the next video. So don't forget to subscribe. See you then. Bye bye.